Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. Now we are joined by Neil, Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Arwin, Eli, 10th Man, Neil, did I miss anybody? John, a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Good
Sky.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is a good morning. It is indeed. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, but you can think that there is.
You mean the thing that obstructs, well, on a globe, if we lived on a globe, the thing that would be geometrically obstructing things in the distance, like the bottoms of boats, the bottoms of mountains, the bottoms of cities?
Yes, like an ant on a basketball.
Right, you would need an actual obstruction, not an apparent one.
Yes, the claim from Globe Earth is that there's a physical geometric sphere edge. Now that is their horizon. They believe the horizon is Earth curve and it's a physical geometric limitation to your view, blocking boats and buildings as they go over it to be qualified with Earth curve mathematics at a rate, with drop, and hidden values to show how much things are hidden behind the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Before it was debunked by the Black Swan. Now we don't have a geometric horizon, they will deny that the horizon's Earth curve by their own claim if they're an anti-flat earther. Oh, the pain to be a flat earther. An anti-flat earther, my bad. Anti-flat earthers have to deny the claim that the horizon is even claimed to be Earth curve by them. Very amusing.
Well, at the moment that they say it's only an apparent position, they've surrendered their argument.
Correct. That's the essence of the Black Swan and its construction. The moment that you say the horizon's refracted, then it's no longer geometric, and your claim of Earth curve is a geometric claim.
That's what I was trying to explain to my other son, my 16-year-old, who was actually being influenced by my 18-year-old, but he's just not getting it.
Well, see, it's the word apparent that's tricking him, because the geometric horizon would be apparent, right? But you're talking about what you see. When they say it's an apparent horizon, they're saying it's not the actual horizon. That's what they're saying.
I don't think it's that he's being tricked, because I listened to a debate that Scientism had about 3 years ago, and pretty much the shoe was on the other foot back then. They were saying, get out of this esoteric nonsense. Stop talking about the sky and this and that. We want direct evidence. Funny that, because we usually talk about direct evidence. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if you showed your son, like there are countless videos of how to get the distance to the horizon. So the question then becomes, well, what is this based on? Well, it's based on the geometric consideration of a globe with a sphere. I mean, a globe with a radius of 3,959 miles. That's where the formula comes from. So it would have to be that in order for the formula to be accurately describing where the horizon would be. So once you just YouTube how to get the distance to the horizon, and they understand, oh, okay, well, that is the current accepted rhetoric. And then you show them how that's not true. That's as simple as I've been able to put it to people.
Just said that. I just went through the whole thing with him, even with the sexton.
No.
Now, you gotta show him.
No.
No, you have to show him globe earthers saying the very opposite.
Video.
Yes.
Now, even
I'll
if you
try
do that, no, just explain what then happens. It's not your sort of black and white view of, at that point, he must recognise that we haven't got the actual globe claim of Earth curve horizons, because it's beyond the geometry. I'll just clear some else up. Sorry, I'll clear my throat first. Hold on. So, in terms of horizons being apparent, by definition, all, without exception, all horizons are apparent. Why? Well, because you can see them. That's what apparent means. Yeah, appearing, apparent. Now, in this context, appearing but not actual is our context for the horizon being apparent. Their context is apparent but geometric. So all horizons are apparent, but the globe horizon is geometric. So, by definition, it's the position where the land meets the sea. The land doesn't actually meet the sea. It just is the position you can see it looking like. That is, to see it. So there are no non-visible horizons, and we only have one horizon. Now, the horizon in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator, marked with an X and labelled Horizon, is their geometric Earth curve edge horizon. That's what they're measuring when they say that boats go over it. It's a geometric claim. Now, if you rewind 3 to 4 years, you'll have this following statement made by globe believers, now relabelled anti-flat earthers, to flat earthers, which is to say, we don't need to account for perspective in our globe maths because it is geometric. The moment you relinquish that and say, oh, well, apparent refracted, not really in the position that it would be, not the geometric horizon, we never get to see it, then you can never measure it. You can never assert it with Earth curve geometry because you've relinquished all claims of having the geometry at the horizon at that point. Bye, globe Earth.
Agreed.
At that point, they're basically just hijacking what we see prospectively, right? And it's not tied to any geometry whatsoever. Basically,
Not exactly. They're hijacking what we see optically and calling it, as a globe believer, geometric. Here's a picture of the horizon. Now let's look at it in our geometric, begging the question, Earth curve mathematics, with a marked as an X labelled horizon obstruction to your view. Here's the geometry. So they replace the optics with geometry. And that's how they justify not having perspective. Until you say, well, we can't see the geometric horizon, it's beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Here's the black swan. They say, quote, we wouldn't expect to see geometry.
But you have to. It's got to be physical.
Has to be geometric. So they have to have their physical geometry blocking things as per their maths. The moment they say it's refracted, it's no longer geometric, no longer capable of being measured to give them an R value, no longer capable of being claimed to be physically blocking things, because the horizon's no longer a physical obstruction. If it's not geometric, it's not got an R value. And that's how they get their R value, from the horizon.
Yeah, he was understanding that, but then he went immediately right to the thing with the sky, with the different rotations of stars, and I had to explain that to him, that they all rise in the west.
Hold on. Yeah, so what he did was he segued away from the devastating loss of his geometric physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, to give him an R value, to maybe claim it's refracted with an R value, terrestrial refraction. Maybe he didn't get to the argument where he should be throwing in 7/6R terrestrial refraction based on the very R he would have measured at the horizon to refract it with. No, he didn't get that far. Instead, he segued on to different rotations. It just means he doesn't know the end of the fundy anti-flat Earth argument, which is to claim it's refracted. And that would be refracted with R. if he was to take it to the conclusion of where they've got so far with the black swan. It's refracted. Their refraction being based on an R that's come from the horizon that's geometric.
Yeah, and then he just turned around and assumed that the Earth was a sphere anyway, with antipodal star rotations.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Correct.
I told him. I said, you put yourself on a sphere.
Yeah, so if you can't get around the fact you haven't got a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon, chant that you've got antipodal star rotation on an assumed sphere you're standing on to make yourself feel a bit better. I better beg the question of it being a sphere that I'm standing on for this antipodal star rotation. I'm going to beg the question of and ask you to justify, because I feel really bad now I haven't got Earth curve as a horizon. So let's change the subject quick sharp.
Yeah, it started with a commercial. I couldn't take it. The commercial had it was Will Smith, and it's all about the Earth and geography, and they were showing a sphere. I was like, this is ridiculous. This has been debunked. So that's how the whole thing started.
That's your problem then. This caused by you. So when I said you need to be at one with this, being at one with it would involve you watching this advert, not mentioning it at all, not having it phase you, not even having a little facial tick. So if there was a body language expert in the room reading your emotions, it'd say he doesn't care. But you do care.
Get rid of the TV. Get rid of that TV.
Yeah, I agree.
We were watching a sporting event. The Giants were on.
It's always that, isn't it? It's always this sporting... It's always your foosball.
I was talking to the TV. I wasn't expecting my 16-year-old to respond. I didn't get no debate from him.
I've told you this already. The vibe you give off, you don't have to be talking to somebody to be giving off a general vibe of hostility towards people's belief. Now, the moment you relinquish all care, you know, you're a bit more apathetic towards it all, then that will permeate throughout your family. But at the moment, your hostility is going to be met with, especially with your boys, the same level of aggression and hostility. So you're inducing this. I've said this all along, and I'm right.
Nathan, I sense an opportunity here. Neil, how long have you been talking to your TV?
I can't take it no more. I can't take these damn commercials.
Yeah, dump the TV.
Well, I just wanted to say, more than apathetic, you kind of got to be, I don't know if the word is sympathetic or empathetic, because guess what? Like, imagine you are right. Imagine it hurts every time you point out something that can't be refuted. Like like when my family watches things with me and they see like space or the moon or the globe, like they constantly look at me and they ask me, would you want to watch that? Or would you? And they know that I'm cool with all of that. Like I don't even bring up flat Earth like that unless they directly try to challenge me. So everything is cool. I'm not, because they don't really, until someone actually cares and digs into it, they don't understand that they have a belief system. Or at least they don't want to be told that they have a belief system and that they've been lied to.
That's what I was trying to tell him. He's got a belief system.
And he doesn't want to, when he wants to hear it, or when he wants to accept it, then you can talk to him about it. Otherwise, you're just kind of, you know, putting maybe him off a little bit, you know?
I was talking to the TV, not him. He should mind his own business.
Shout out to Mike808 for hitting the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed.
It's my psychotic TV. Leave me alone.
This is between me and the tube.
Yeah.
Correct.
What kind of TV do you have? It's a Zenith. Oh, a Zenith TV. Do you know about Zenith?
Okay, as Neil's son segued onto axial rotation, we might as well ask the question. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
You need to assume it was a sphere first.
What, like Neil's son did?
Another thing I said, we have no move. They say we're moving, but we don't feel it. They say the Earth curves, but we don't see it.
I mean, you could have linked it back. Go on, Eli. Sorry.
The tactic that I saw in the 3-year-old Jaron debate was that they get, because they're under the impression that everything that they've been told is true and legitimate and based in evidence, right? So they can ask you a million questions about the fairy tale that you never set out to answer in the first place. All of these begging the question fallacies, affirming the consequent fallacies, circular reasoning fallacies can all be summed up with, yeah, that's assuming that it's a globe, which is the thing that we're trying to prove. Where's the direct evidence for that? Oh, where's the direct evidence that's flat? Well, you have celestial navigation and you have the black swan. What else you want to talk about?
Correct. That's what I did. Black Swan and the Sexton. Ends it all.
Well, you can link that back to his axial rotation question, because he's like, well, how do they rotate? It's like, well, how do you assume the spherical surface and the radiant value for that rotation unless you've got an R value derived from a geometric horizon we've debunked with the black swan? So, if someone tries to wiggle off the hook by taking it to another claimed globe proof, this is where, I think it was John, to give you credit for this, a useful exercise to go through the process of figuring out where R and the derivation of R is linked back to each of the housekeeping arguments. Because if somebody tries to, scattergun, and you've started with Earth curve, which seems like the most sensible place. I think the order's pretty good that the housekeeping questions are laid out in. Because you start with, where's Earth curve? And if they're an anti-flat earther, they can deny they even claim they've got a physical horizon that's geometrically blocking stuff. We never claim that, says an anti-flat earther. But if it's, a normal non-fundy, they'll say, well, the horizon. Then you debunk it, show them the black swan, show them how it's beyond the geometric limitations of their sphere Earth radius 3959, and how they can no longer get R if you've got a black swan scenario where you can't measure it because you haven't got any geometry to measure. The horizon's moving. It's not physically blocking stuff, it's moving with the weather. So therefore not your Earth curve edge. At that point, if they jump to a different subject, exactly as done by Neil's son, then you go, okay, you want to claim now that we've got antipodal star rotation? Yeah, that's based on a rotation value in radians, and you being antipodal on a sphere Earth radius 3959. So for all of this assumption, you need R. Where'd you get it? Well, you got it from the horizon, the one that you've moved on from and decided not to address. That's where you got R to make this assumption in the first place. And you haven't got it anymore. So what are you going to do? Assume that you've antipodal without an R value to assume it with? Yeah, that's just fundy faith. Nothing more.
His other thing was, I got to throw this there before you get to the next housekeeping question. He thinks it's a sign of weakness that we declare that we don't know what the sky is, what the sun is, and what the stars are.
I see.
Well,
so let me get it straight. His son one day, let's just have a nice little fantasy moment. He's wandered into a hospital because he's got a sick relative, and he tells somebody, and they mistake him as he walks down the hall. Someone mistakes him for a surgeon. They put him in scrubs, they put a mask on, and they, come on, let's get you in. He thinks he's going to see his sick relative. He's like, doesn't understand why he's in scrubs, but he is. And then he's in the operation theatre, and he's like, oh. Does he A, say, it would be weak to admit that I am not a neural surgeon? Or does he start having a little poke around in this guy's head? Which one does he do? Is it weakness?
If he's principled, he would do the surgery.
Oh, bad. That's bad. Yeah, but
unfortunately, that's literally the world we're living in today. Where put in that circumstance, he would feel like, oh, I need to do this because I'm right. It's that egotistical nature of the world a lot of people have nowadays. It's kind of ridiculous. Instead of just being honest, like, hey guys, I'm not a surgeon. You might want to find a real surgeon. No, I'll just pretend. I'm not a real one, but I play one on TV. That type of shit,
Yeah, and the nurse turns around and says, says on this form you're a surgeon. Get on with it.
Yeah, but they don't know what. That's what I was trying to tell him. They don't know what's up there. They've never been there either.
Well, the people that are debating with us or engaging with us, I wouldn't call it a debate. It's over as far as debating with us. They've lost. But the people that are engaging with us aren't professionals in this arena. And the people that are professionals won't step into this arena.
That's true.
Well, yeah, like who's it going to take to come out to these people who believe in the globe, to believe that like show them You know, if somebody like from NASA came out and said, you know, hey, the Earth is flat, you know, are these people who believe in the globe going to believe that one guy? Like, what is it going to take for these people who believe in the globe to believe that it's flat? You know,
NASA
It would
already
take
said, hang on, please. NASA already said the Earth is motionless and flat. Go on, Eli.
yeah, it would take better marketing
Okay.
because that's the thing. Exactly what Chen just said is the problem. They've already on paper admitted that everything that we talk about and dispute with these anti-flat earthers, they've already written somewhere that said thing is theoretical, hypothetical, if this, then that kind of stuff. You know, it's
Yep.
not
And
based
that,
in any evidence whatsoever. So
and that's why the globers sound the way they do, where they have to defend the indefendable, right? It's pretty shitty when you have to defend a globe when the people that you run to tell you it's a globe tell you in their documents it's flat and stationary. And that's how we have to assume it whenever we build vehicles, which we actually put people in that actually have to work over the actual Earth.
But they're not working on the not actual or level, or the really is level.
Exactly. But here, look at this globe. Look at this pretty cartoon we got for you over here. But meanwhile, in our official documents, flat and stationary all day. Funny, isn't that?
It is pretty though.
So when they ask you what the sky is, right, it's because people think that they know the Earth is a globe, but they're really just enamored with the religion about what's in the sky. Because no one really talks about Earth as a globe, really, unless it's in some rhetoric like, oh, we're taking over the globe, yada, 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 down under Australia, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to the wonder of everything, it's outside, it's up there. All of this stuff doing this stuff.
Chaos
Well, at
asked,
the moment they
hold on, just one sec. Chaos asked, what would it take to make them appreciate it? And then he gave an example if somebody from NASA came out. Well, they have in a way, because there's recently lots of disclosed documents in the last, I don't know how many years it is, that show NASA's descriptions of technical aspects of dealing with Earth and how it's flat and stationary. You know, it's there in black and white. And they're in the documents that are related to actual functioning things that take place on the surface of Earth. So they have to deal with it in that way because that's how it is, and it states it in black and white. Now, what will the anti-flat earther do when they're presented with that information? Well, they'll say, well, here's my excuse for why they said that. They'll justify it, in other words, explain it away, or potentially handwave it, like it never even happened. Because they're not going to relinquish their entire worldview simply because somebody... It's akin to thinking that John is our most recent addition that's technically not recently transitioned from Globe Earth, but an outspoken globe proponent that was akin to any other globe proponent that comes here in many ways. And his transition to say, well, I'm a globe proponent, actually I've realised I haven't got a measurement, I haven't got an hour, therefore it cannot be anything other than flat because I need a geometric horizon regardless of the shape. You know, I can only describe an aspect, not a shape, if I haven't got a geometric horizon. That's John's backstory from transition globe believer / anti-flat earther. Morgile got back in touch, by the way. To flat earther. Now, does that mean that in that process, when he tells people, like he does daily, pretty much, on the show, about how he's transitioned, why he's transitioned, how he cannot accept the globe anymore, that's going to convert anybody? Not really. Fortunately, people are their own people. You know, they're not going to be told anything in most instances. They can be slowly drip-fed and educated into believing certain things, and once they believe them, they're going to stand by those beliefs, regardless of what you say, until there's something that is going to break them. So the reason I've harped on about this for a little bit longer, Chaos, is because your question's very interesting to me. My first show, after finding out Earth was flat, was predominantly about that. All I did was interview, I was going to say new flat earthers, which they were at the time, but people who are now like the old gurus. But back then, all my interviews on Flat Earth UK, my first question to every single one of them, how did you find out And it's not the exact question, but it alludes to what was it that made you transition like John did. For him, it was the black swan. So prior to that, there may be many fundies out there that would always just say, we can measure Earth curve, you stupid idiot. And then they go on with their day. Now, there's different strokes for different folks. Not everyone's going to see the black swan as their transitional eureka moment. It's just not for everybody. It was for John. For all the people I interviewed on Flat Earth UK, they all had different reasons. And different means of finding those reasons, and different research avenues that led them there, and different conspiracies that they've been looking at prior to it, that they've got a lot of knowledge on in some instances. Some were completely fresh. But the point is that everyone comes to it from a different way, and for the most part, if not 100% of the time, the characteristic of the person is more important than what they know or don't know or what you've presented them. If they're of a characteristic that they are genuinely inquiring, then, even if their dogged determination that they're on a sphere right up until a point comes, as long as they're genuinely inquiring, when that thing comes along, they won't just deny it and go into cognitive dissonance and pain and anti-flat earthism, basically. You know, that at that point, you've got to have some internal intellectual honesty and accept what you found out. A lot of people don't do that because the mainstream isn't aligning with it, so I can't possibly accept that that's the case. There's got to be some reason beyond my intellect that can square that circle. So they go into denial. They do it with the housekeeping questions. They've been doing it for about 4 years. Well, they've all been debunked, have they? Let's hear them. Don't just say it to make yourself better, feel better about this scenario that you've obviously come across something that you couldn't get around. You couldn't get around it, so you've said, oh, it's all been debunked. In your mind, telling yourself that someone somewhere must have done. Well, no, they haven't. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be saying them. Because we'd look stupid. Because we'd just have non-stop that video that debunked question number 3 on the housekeeping posted every day in the comments section. Do we get that? No, we don't. But delusional idiots will tell themselves they're all debunked because they just haven't got the intellectual honesty to say, I can't debunk this. And rather than, well, someone must have done, going, well, let's see if I can then. Let's actually try to debunk it. And when they fail and the logic stands, they go, oh my God, I'm on a flat plane. Not everyone's got that character. So saying what's the universal silver bullet, there isn't one. It's dependent on the person's character as much as it is on the information they find. The two have got to align to get anybody to come to this subject. A realisation of your reality isn't an easy thing to comprehend when you've got a totally skewed worldview that you've known from birth. It's really hard. It's hard for me. There wasn't a single person I interviewed that said it wasn't hard. And it is. Doesn't mean it's not great.
But the thing is at the moment that you have to relinquish that you measure Earth curve, at that moment, it is moral. It's your own morals and your character, like you said. But when they start asking you questions about how the world works, that's a concession.
I agree.
When they start saying things like, well, then what's the sky? You know, that's the concession.
Well, it could be that he's young.
No, it's not about the question, Neil. It's about, I know exactly where you're coming from, John. What you're saying is, I'll give you my reply rather than summarising what you've said. My reply is, so you're in the same boat as me then? So at this stage, you're looking to me to answer your now new lack of understanding where you had a good understanding of the sky and its vacuum-like nature and gas pressures without containers in violations of natural law was all in fine understanding. But now that it's been debunked, your response to me is, well, what is the sky then? Now, there's 2 reasons for that. One is so that if I present some garbage, they can pull that apart and then go away happy that, well, it must still be a vacuum. Or they genuinely want to learn. But the point is that regardless of if they're an open-minded person at that point that just recognises they don't know something and would just like to know, nothing wrong with that, versus somebody that just wants to hear a garbage explanation from a flat earther so they can pull that apart and then go about their merry way, still believing they're on a sphere even though it's been debunked with second law of thermodynamics. But those are your only 2 choices. And at which point I just say, well, I'd like to know too. If you find out, let me know.
Did you get the gas pressure out of the container yet?
Yeah, you're welcome to Flat Earth. The sky's not a vacuum. I don't know what the sky is. I'd love to know, though. And so would you, it seems.
Because that's what
Right.
got through. That's what I wanted to say. I was waiting for that housekeeping question. He was understanding that. When we got to that, and I explained how if we lived on a sphere and that's infinite space, then all of this air we're breathing would fill the available space and we would not have any air. So to me, that's still the best because he was understanding that.
Well, you don't have to put it in context of a sphere for that one either, because even if it was a sphere, you would still need a container. You don't even have to put sphere on the beginning of that, so you don't have to let him beg the question of a sphere at the beginning. Just point out the gas pressure needs containment, else gas will fill space.
Correct, but I was using Nathan's way. If Earth was a sphere and we had infinite space, then we'd be dead. Because where'd the air be going? It would be filling the infinite space, would it not?
Right, but the description of infinite space, you could probably try to wrangle that into a flat Earth paradigm. Doesn't mean it's true. Still need a finite space to have gas pressure.
Isn't it like, damn, I wanted to make a point when the point was they'll want you to, they'll say, oh, something is debunked when it actually wasn't. So one example of that is when we bring up the lunar eclipse, because the thing is, we're not making a claim. The claim about what it is already out there. Aristotle said, hey, we know that the Earth is a sphere because look at the curved shape on the moon during a lunar eclipse. So the bottom line is, the way they describe it is you have the sun, you have the Earth, and you have the moon in a line, in a syzygy. And when the moon moves, into alignment with the Earth, it's in the Earth's shadow. That's why there's an eclipse. That's what they say is happening. But when you're observing the eclipse, it doesn't look like what they're describing as happening is happening. So on top of the sun and the moon both being above you when you're looking at the lunar eclipse, you also have the fact that the so-called shadow is coming in from all sorts of directions other than the one you would expect. If you saw the moon and you're expecting it as you're looking at it traverse the sky all night, let's say the eclipse starts at 5 a.m. or whatever, and it's getting lower towards the horizon, you would expect for it to descend into the area that's going to cause the shadow, and that would begin at the bottom of the moon because it's descending into the shadow. But you see it at the top. It's like, that's not an argument, that's just an observation. How could it be what you're saying it is when I'm looking at the moon and the thing that I'm standing on is supposed to be causing the shadow, but the shadow is at the top? How is that possible? There's no answer for that. There's no debunking that.
Or you just get them to show you a diagram of how they claim it is, and when they show you umbra and penumbra with convergent light from the sun, you go, really? So it converges? That's yet to happen. One day that'll actually happen. Someone will come on the show and start describing how eclipses work after we've had a sextant argument 5 minutes prior and they just haven't heard or something.
That's correct.
Yeah, that was actually a topic, what was it, last week? Because in the U.S., there was actually a partial eclipse, and I had brought it up in chat, and I did, like the diameter of the moon, diameter of the moon's shadow, which was 30 times smaller than the actual diameter of the moon, and then the Earth's diameter by that 30 times, which the shadow of the Earth on the moon should have only been 256 miles wide. and everybody was trying to tell me that the angle of incidence from the sun to the earth and then the umbrum wouldn't be the same like it was for the moon, and it was just a spouting of nonsense, really.
Why'd you even get into that?
Umbra.
Right, but
Umbra, not umbrum.
Umbra and penumbra.
Yeah, penumbra and umbra, whatever.
they
Sorry,
love
John.
dealing in the realm of possibilities, though, and things that they, no one knows, because then they can claim they know it. So when you talk about the sky, they can claim they know things about the sky, because no one knows anything about the sky. And the horizon, the reason it was so important is what everything is built off of.
Correct.
So at that moment, they can't claim anything on the sky.
Meanwhile, back at NASA with the technical documents, the Earth is flat and motionless.
Yeah, exactly. There's somebody said, well, what would you need to show them? Well, here's a few NASA documents where they declare when in operation on Earth's plane, you must consider it flat and stationary. Here it is in black and white. Like I say, all you'll get from either if they've never come across this information ever, they go, wow, that's amazing, and just take it into consideration, probably on their way to flat Earth, or at the very least realising that they've been lied to, or they defend it. No, there must be a reason why. It's just easier to consider it flat. I've heard that one a few times. It's easier to consider it flat. Why would it be easier if you were on a sphere to consider it flat?
Well, currently, they don't even know what an angle is anymore, because when the sextant argument came out from all of us, they say, well, yeah, it's an angle measuring device, but you don't need a straight baseline. You can have a curved baseline to get that angle. Now, right there, they've conceded the whole argument. It just hasn't hit them yet.
Can't have a curved adjacent, and that's it. That's the end of the argument. That is the death nail of that argument. How'd you get two straight lines on a curved surface? You don't. So it's easier to consider it flat. Yeah, it must be flat for this to work, because it can't work if it's a sphere. Now, you'd have a whole other raft of problems, and a way of dealing with it wouldn't be triangulation if we were on a sphere, because it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
Imagine that's your level of argument. You have to consider the Earth to be exact opposite of what you're told it is, or what you experience it to be, in order for things to work on it. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's like Mr. Sensible still being dishonest about trilateration and triangulation. Now, he's saying that in celestial navigation with the sextant, you're actually trilaterating. He cites nothing. He just talks as if it's true. In the meantime, we've put up documents showing what trilateration is versus triangulation. And trilateration is really come alive in the GPS era. It's come alive with microwave signals. It's got to have a radio frequency bouncing off of something coming back to the source in a straight line. Now, the sextant does not work on electronic basis whatsoever. That's why the Navy is back at it, saying, hey, in the event of an EMP attack, we need to have a navigation like the old sailors did, where we just use the celestial objects. And so now the Navy's reinstituted the sextant because it's not electronic. Trilateration is electronic based. You got to have a signal bouncing off of your smartphone for them to know where you are. This guy's so dishonest, but he's got everybody who's a Patreon over there supporting him, thinking that he's proven the sextant is trilateration when it's actually triangulation.
Well, they've got to layer it with bullshit. We've known that for a while. But ultimately, when it comes to the triangulation method, as I said earlier, it only works on a flat surface. You've got to have triangulation in place. And when they appeal to things like GPS is Cartesian anyway. It's done in a grid system. It's done on a flat plane. So when they appeal to GPS, look into how GPS actually lays out what it's doing. It's Cartesian.
Shout out to Brian's Logic.
I have something that relates to that a little bit, but it's on the distance to the sun.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Well, you know, they say the not actual size of the sun as it moves through its not actual position, right? They're talking about angular size.
You want me to summarize that question for you so you can pad off the back of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why does the not actual size of the sun not change in not actual size as it moves from its not actual position?
Right, they're talking about angular size when they're talking about that, right?
Yeah, that would be angular, not actual. Angular, apparent size. Angular size is not actual size. So why does its not actual size change throughout the day as it moves on a globe from its not actual refracted position?
Well, given that their refraction is a curve, right? Where do they get the straight lines to claim that?
They don't. They can't measure the angle in the first instance. Not only can they not measure an angle because they don't have a straight line for the adjacent, and their horizon is dipping away from them 8 inches per mile squared to form an obstruction, not only do they not have a curved adjacent, when they describe it after the fact, when you've measured it with an angle on a flat plane to get a straight line to form a vortex, to actually measure the angle, they'll then take that angle out of your hand that you've measured it with and say that that angle's actually at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Again, ignoring the fact that you wouldn't have been able to measure the angle and that you're not standing at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. That's what they'll do.
Wow.
Yeah, so the claim of their claim about the sun and its apparent size is complete garbage.
Yeah, they can't measure its apparent size without two straight lines.
I just see it as it's another diversionary tactic question. Just like, oh, why do we have a pressure gradient when asked about gas pressure in the first place? It's nonsense.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No,
Yeah,
that's
2
ridiculous.
containers.
No, it's
Say it
ridiculous.
slower.
It's never been demonstrated.
2 containers. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No, it's never been demonstrated. Can't have gas pressure.
I was
without it
waiting for
being
Arwin to say
contained.
3 containers, actually, Neil.
Sorry.
Well, I still like my mathematical formula that if you have a set pressure in a canister, which when relieved into a pipe will equal a gradient pressure on the other side, right? Then you have a container on both sides. You can just take that container out at that point and just talk about the gradient.
I see. So imagine that you've got a containerless container because you've arbitrarily assigned, say, 2 lots of 1 metre squared area or 1 metre cubed area. And then you just say, well, that's the amount of pressure we're talking about in that amount of area. And obviously, that arbitrarily assigned area that I've given doesn't need any containment. And it's still got the pressure there. Just ignore the prerequisite to have a container to achieve the pressure to make your example. And just start with an existence in an arbitrary amount of space that you assign it. Right?
You know, Nathan, I wish I was a Glober for once because I just dropped over $1,000 on 4 Michelin containers for my truck because I needed air pressure.
Oh, I wish I was a Glober with fire in my mouth. No.
What about when they say, how come the air is thinner in Mount Everest?
Because it is.
It went up.
You just say it stops there.
No. But it definitely made its way up there. Up. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, you can't describe it as mass 1 is attracted to mass 2 if you throw out your measurements for M2. And you can't say that space-time is bending around M1 if you threw out your measurements of M1. So I don't know if there's a description for gravity anymore.
No, there isn't. It's a big problem if you've got a fundamentalist religious belief in a 107-year out-of-date mass attracting mass, or the curvature of space-time in a pseudo fourth space dimension that we don't exist in. It's a very real problem. Obviously, the concept that's being described with maths in that instance, 107-year out-of-date mass attracting mass or bending pseudo four space, that would be Einsteinian gravity. Either one of them don't actually have a phenomena to describe. So yeah, you're throwing out mass moving to the centre of M2 in the first one, out of date though it is. But I just said 30 seconds earlier that, you know, the air's made its way up to the top of Everest. It's definitely not moving to the centre of Earth. That's not what gas does.
You're going to need a globe for that.
What, for gas to move away from it, while simultaneously being claimed to move down 9.8 metres per second because it's got mass, when it isn't doing that? I don't need to appeal to any of the pseudo-4 space being debunked in the mathematics and not having a phenomenon to describe when the thing that they do describe literally doesn't happen.
Yeah, but everything we say, you're going to need a globe for that.
For the claim, yeah, you're going to need a globe to claim that you've got mass moving towards mass at 9.8 meters per second or any other rate with any other cause describable. If you say it's bending space-time that causes that. Well, that causing that thing isn't a thing. It's not happening. So to try and figure out why and assert why you've got a cause of something that happens when it doesn't happen seems a bit silly.
Well, isn't Neil deGrasse Tyson with that beach ball in the shape of a globe, when he says what he says, he's basically doing the opposite, because he's saying we don't have a globe, it's flat. And so now these guys are saying, you know, to everything, well, you're going to need a globe for that. Well, go to your high priest. He's saying that there's no way of knowing you're on the globe, even when you're really high up, let alone when you're on the ground like an ant. So how did you ever get this belief in the first place?
He doesn't explicitly say
It's ridiculous.
about how it would be on a globe. He always has some comparison. In that case, a beach ball. And he's saying you won't see the curve of the Earth from 3 millimeters above this beach ball. He even goes to the extent of slapping the beach ball like it's booty. You can't see the curve of the Earth when you're 3 millimeters above this beach ball. So he's making you reify it. He doesn't explicitly say so. I'm sure you could find an example where he does, but I can't think of one. It's always done in a metaphor or in a simile or whatever it's called, and left to you to reify it for yourself.
Well, he did it with gravity when he says, I don't know.
Well, the horizon
can
on
I
that.
say something? Hi, guys. When
Right,
he
go on.
says that about the beach ball, he never actually shows you what it looks like 3 millimeters above that beach ball. If you have a really small camera, like a tube camera or something, yeah, what does it look like? I bet you could see it 3 millimeters from the beach ball, actually, in reality.
Yeah, but see what? That's his best magic trick, because all we're doing now is discussing what we would see. Well, what we would see from above the beach ball is a physical geometric limitation based on the radius of the ball and its limitation based on the physicality. That would be the ball's horizon presented to the ant 3 millimeters above it. So it's the horizon. That's what it is. So when you say, I bet you could see it at 3 millimeters above, what, the now reified horizon from the ball to the position of your view of a horizon? Because that's the point of the trick. Make sure everyone still reifies the horizon into a geometric physical limitation like this ant's going to see on an actual ball. Hello, Adam.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? It
Yeah.
is on an actual ball visible, right? So he's claiming it's not visible on a ball. Yes, it is.
Exactly.
It would be.
Exactly. We wouldn't see it on our ball, isn't overtly stated. It's not visible to bend. We're not going to see the bend if we're 3 millimeters above the beach ball, if you're an ant, is the claim. Well, whether or not you see it bending is irrelevant when you're reifying that actual geometric limitation on an actual ball for an ant to our horizon we see in our reality. The two are not the same. One has got geometry. The one that we see, that's our horizons, not Earth curve. Doesn't have geometry. And the anti-flat earthers tell us how we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. We wouldn't expect to see geometry. It's not as simple as that.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately, for them.
Well, at some point, if he stuck a yardstick on it, the two ends would stick out in space.
What?
If you put a ruler on it, on that beach ball, long enough ruler, the ends would stick out in space. See, this is a sphere, but as far as we can tell, it's flat. Well, put a ruler on it. What happens when you put a ruler on it? And how high do you have to be for that? When all along in schooling from kindergarten up, you're showing me a globe and telling me there's curvature and bombs and boats are being blocked by it. So now you're telling me that's not true?
Yeah, meanwhile, we do not have a geometric horizon to block boats and buildings. We're being told how non-geometric it is, and how it's an outrage that we should expect to see physical Earth curve geometry at the horizon. Yeah, we don't expect to see that. The globe does, you anti-flat earthers out there who are now denying it.
Would it help to call it obstruction, right? Like, so the ant 2 millimeters above the beach ball would have a geometric obstruction at a set distance, you know?
What, like asserted in Earth curve geometry, where they assert that the horizon's going to form a physical geometric obstruction to boats and buildings that they can quantify with its hidden value? That sort of obstruction, you mean?
Yeah, so the ant would experience a geometric obstruction. You don't experience that geometric obstruction on Earth.
Correct. So, in other words, the black swan works as a double whammy, because not only is it the case that the horizon you're claiming is geometric if you believe your ionosphere is beyond its limitations, if it's beyond its limitations, then you haven't got the geometry you must have on a sphere. And you haven't got it anymore. Like the beach ball with the ant is and must always have a limitation to its view at the horizon of the beach ball. It's a must-have if you're on a ball. It's not going to go away. Well, that's the geometry that you can assert of that ball with its ball horizon. Geometric limitation for the ant. Our horizon doesn't offer those qualities, and I'm afraid it doesn't offer any geometry to measure. It's not Earth curve, and we're being told by the anti-flat earthers how non-Earth curvy that horizon is at the moment. So yeah, it's kind of game over.
Well, it's better than that. When he slapped that beach ball and said what he said, he just threw Eratosthenes under the bus, because according to Eratosthenes, the shadow caused by the sun was because Earth was curving away in Alexandria from Cyan at 7.2 degrees. So
he threw Galileo under the bus as well when he apparently used the first telescope and he observed boats disappearing bottom first. He threw him under the bus as well.
Not only that, he sucked all the flat earthers into it too. You see? Even Neil deGrasse is saying Earth is flat.
But he isn't. He's saying you can't see the curve of the Earth from 2 millimeters above this beach ball. Well, that as a statement's pretty reasonable. No, Mr. Tyson, you're right. I can't see the curve of the Earth from 2 millimeters above a beach ball. Number one, there is no Earth curve to see, because our horizon isn't Earth curve. We've only got one horizon, and the horizon in your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator's geometric. Like the horizon for your ant on that there beach ball. But that's not our horizon. What's that you say? You're slapping it and telling us it's flat? That's fascinating, we know. But to be on a ball, you've got to have a geometric horizon, and you haven't.
Meanwhile, back at NASA, the documents say we are on a flat, motionless Earth.
What he's saying there, just to pick Neil up and to agree with Nathan, he's not saying that you're living on a flat Earth. What he's saying is the Earth's not a sphere, but you can think of it as a sphere. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, he is.
I know that. I'm saying, but flat earthers get tricked into it. That's why I always said it's his greatest trick, because he's got both people back on a sphere.
Well, both sides reifying the horizon into a physical Earth curve edge, and then arguing about whether or not it should or shouldn't bend at a certain altitude. The horizon doesn't bend at an altitude of whatever the globe says the flat earther, is the hope of that argument from Tyson. He hopes that, no, we won't see it bend, will be what the flat earther says, and it then is only taken upon them because he says that stuff is flat. So they take it as part of their argument, not realising that saying it won't bend, well, it's back to calling it, that's the horizon assumed to be geometric Earth curve edge obstruction, won't bend at a certain altitude. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether or not it bends, it's not Earth curve.
We're not
Right.
supposed to see the geometric horizon.
Right, like, so if you go up 300,000 miles, and it seems like the horizon bends, it's still not Earth curve, guys. So at that point, your pictures are done too.
Yeah, and if they show you a flat horizon at the same altitude and you go, as a flat earther, look, the horizon's not bending, it's like, well, you've missed the correct part of this argument that's the strongest. Yeah? In other words, who cares what the horizon is? Why are you pointing out that it's not bending? It's not a physical location to do anything. It's an apparent position where the sky looks like it's meeting the ground. Something that doesn't ever happen. Curved, not curved, who cares? It's not Earth curve. Did I mention that there's a couple of people on the hook from DITRH that have said they want Bitcoin? And they've been given the link to come to discuss it here, but none of them have actually made an appearance yet. Two of
What
them.
about the Morgile? You said something about the Morgile earlier.
Yeah, he got back in touch. He's had a broken computer, so he sent me an email saying bump, and I didn't know what he meant. I think he just meant keeping the email up the chain so he doesn't get forgotten about. But I didn't actually read the email. I just read the first line of it this morning when I woke up. Words to the effect of "my computer's been broken." ... I was like, okay, fine. I'll come to that later. But yeah, I'll read the email and then presumably start sending him emails again with the link in, and hopefully he'll join one of the days and have a chat with us. That'd be nice. But yeah, back to what I actually said, which is that there's a couple of people lined up that have met the prerequisite to get Bitcoin out of David if they can prove the Earth's a sphere. So they've, I don't know what the stipulations are. You've got to download the app. I know that's one of the stipulations, and then you've got to watch stuff for a week or something like that. There's a few things you've got to do. At which point it's like, right, okay, now go and present your evidence to the guys over on Flat Earth Debate. Let's see how it stacks up. See if it holds. If it doesn't, obviously no Bitcoin for you. But as I said, they know where to go. They're apparently both reasonably unfamiliar with Discord. But they've got Discord names that I've been given, and I've not seen them yet.
If they have any sense, though, they're watching this show or your shows and trying to formulate arguments. You know what I mean?
Studying their enemy is what.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did before I was going to present evidence. But Black Swan kind of ruined all that.
Or you could just come in like Virus, and then after getting your head chopped off, say, "You see how I'm attacking your argument?"
The bigger question is, why isn't anyone on the panel going after that Bitcoin?
What to prove? You got to prove a sphere with. How am I going to prove a sphere to get Bitcoin?
I mean, I got a Bitcoin address if you want it, but there's no. That doesn't come with globe proof seeds. So, sorry.
Yeah, I should have really mentioned that. You get the Bitcoin for
Bitcoin address.
You get the Bitcoin for proving Earth's a sphere. So they've got to come here and prove it's a sphere. That's it. That's what they've got to do.
That's my point. The incentive is high. The payoff is great. And here we are saying, come on, somebody come and prove it. But when we do it, if we could prove it, wouldn't we go after that Bitcoin?
Hell yeah. That's the first thing I said to him. I was like, I wish I could chase after it. But, alas, I know it's fruitless. What's the point? But yeah, I'd chase after it. If I actually thought Earth was a sphere, I'd want 200 grand or whatever it is.
Especially right now, Bitcoin's in a nice dip.
200 grand?
Why wouldn't you want that?
I'm going to prove it right now. 200 grand?
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!